Alright, what's up, Doc? It's the GOAT coming back for a build guide. I put a lot of time and effort into this, so you guys better appreciate it, because I do not do this shit for free. By the way, for these examples, it's all going to be 4 specialists, all with wither goggles and have the ability to clear. If you're still running a CC and you're building in a spirit mask, I'm not shaming you, I'm just saying there's better alternatives. If you guys watched my glorious GOAT Lhxseven's guide on how to play the game, forget about it, it's horrible, don't worry about it, I'll teach you instead. Just to cover the basics, you're all going to start on your individual piles depending on what pre you start. You're all going to work towards your respective cannons, whether that be X cannon or the cannon beside triangle. This is kind of just the setup that we came up with to make sure that everyone's on the same page and that you have to travel the least amount of distance to get to all builds. But with the garbage out of the way, we can get to the important part. So the first things you should think about are separating builds into 2 sides. It's going to be triangle and equals and slash and X, and you guys are going to basically race to finish the build first. There's a lot of things you have to think about, so it's not that easy. You have to think about who freshes, you have to think about what side the stunner is on, and you have to think about where L is and kind of deal with that as well. There's a couple of different aspects to it that are just going to happen when you play, but I'll try to give you as many examples as I can to make it a little easier. The first thing I want to show is what you're going to see on screen, which is where if you build on the left or the right side of the pile, it'll still let you fire veil, it'll still let you hype, it'll still let you gloomlock. Gloomlock is broken, by the way, start using it. But this is really good for TPing in between builds without losing any time. It'll help you clear. If you want, you can just hype back and forth between the piles and look schizophrenic, but it works. So you guys should start using it. It's really easy. There's literally nothing to it, and it'll save you a lot of time during builds. Oh yeah, this is a public service announcement, by the way. Please start using Fireveil. It is broken. I think you can tell how well these clips are spliced together and how great this audio recording is, so don't worry about it. The other thing I want to talk about is what to do when how many people fresh, what to do when the stunner is on weak side, what to do when L is on your pile. So the first and the most important part of build is paying attention to how many people fresh. If you have Thomas the Tank Engine add-ons, you can turn it on and it'll highlight your players green and it'll send a notification in chat when you fresh. This is just important for giving yourself a visual idea of who hit, and if you're not in a VC, you can still apply these same things. So what do you do with this information? Well, if you have the ability to critically think, you probably don't need to watch this video. Just run through the situations in your head and come to your own conclusions. But for the rest of you idiots, there's 3 common situations that are really easy to deal with. For all of these examples, by the way, it's going to be 2 people freshing, because if 1 person freshes, it doesn't matter, and if 3 people fresh, it's the same thing. So the first example is, what happens when 1 person freshes on both sides of the build? So this could be triangle and slash hit or triangle and X hit, any combination of those, as long as you know that the builds are split vertically down the middle. When this happens, this is kind of your ideal scenario. The person who freshes finishes their first build and then does the second one as well. The person who didn't fresh on their side still does their first build, but then clears for the person who freshed before starting to help them with their second pile. And when I say clear, by the way, I don't mean CC stun, just hype twice and then help them build. Once again, your Fireveil should do almost all the work, and public service reminder, Fireveil is broken, please use Fireveil. By the way, for all of these examples, you should probably be averaging around an 18 to 19 second build. The clip that I'm showing, it was BM1 or something, and it's still a 20-second build with only 2 freshes. Like, there's no excuse at this point. Anyways, the second example is what happens if both your freshes are on the same side of the build. Obviously, this leads to a very unbalanced build where one side is going to be done way faster than the other one. The way that I encourage people to deal with this is pay attention to who freshed first. The person who freshed first should do both their first and their second pile, whereas the person who freshed second should finish their first pile and then go across to the opposite cannon to do that one instead. Sometimes this strategy still fucks up and the person who's left alone doesn't finish their build in time, but I don't get paid enough to find an answer to that, and there's a lot of other factors that I'll talk about later. And the last situation is kind of 2 situations. It's what happens if nobody freshes, or what happens if everybody freshes. If nobody freshes, unlucky bro, you got a 35-second build. And if everybody freshes, no one fucking clears, build as fast as you can and try to beat world record build of 14 seconds, which is held by me, by the way. Let me just go through all my credentials quick. I have world record Kuudra at a minute and 18 seconds. I have world record fatal tempo. I have world record post rend patch. I have world record crates. I have world record build. I have world record 0 second stun. I have world record insta stun. I have world record rend P4 and I have world record fatal tempo P4. In case you haven't heard of me, my name is Raider MC and I like boys. With that out of the way, the only two things that I still want to talk about is how to deal with your stunner and how to deal with L. Obviously, in builds, your stunner has to leave a little bit early so they can get to cannon on time to go in instantly, and L sits there in the middle of the ballista spinning in circles most of the time, but sometimes can be helpful. There's no great way to explain how these are going to affect you in game, since your stunner can start on any pre and L can start helping on any build. Sometimes if L is building on the same pile that you are, you can leave early to let her finish it, but sometimes she leaves early and leaves it at 97, and then you have to go back to deal with it later. And since the stunner has to leave early, sometimes a player from the other side has to go and help them with their builds. Overall, these just lead to variations that you'll have to deal with case by case. These are some things that I don't really have the answer to, but they're good to think about when you build if you actually want to improve. Anyways, for you fuckers that skip to the end because you don't like listening to me talk, here's the spark notes. If you fresh, don't clear. If you don't fresh, still don't clear. If you need to clear, use a fire veil. If you're low, use a gloom log. For the rest of you, I'm sorry for making you waste 5 minutes of your life that you'll never get back, and I hope it makes LFG better so I can get back to my humble, grounded roots of an infernal LFG player.
Oh, what did he?